Hi there, Dazza at Race Centre here. I've just given Daniel's bike a fang on the dyno. Hopefully he gets that one. But anyway, this is a 675 Daytona. It is a 2014 model. The bike was here for a valve clearance check. Daniel's had this bike for a little while and is slowly doing his track bike build on it. We've done a suspension upgrade on this bike previously, and one of the big things we normally recommend with a track bike, especially if it's unknown, is to get the valve clearances checked. It's a lot more critical on a track bike than a road bike. But we did a video a few years ago about that, so I'll actually link to that video in the description so that you can see that why valve clearance is so important. Also, checking valve clearances and blueprinting valve clearances are two different things. We never just do a check, we always do a blueprint. With checking them, so a valve clearance is always going to have a minimum clearance and a maximum. A lot of times, so the procedure that some mechanics will use is they just see if make sure it's no smaller than minimum and no bigger than the maximum. So they'll just use two feeler gauges, one's the minimum and one's the maximum, and they'll make sure the minimum can go in. And I'll make sure that the maximum can't. And as long as that happens, they won't go any further. What we do, we actually specifically measure every single clearance. There's a couple of reasons for that. In our race bikes, and certainly in race bikes, if you get them spot on, or as close to as possible, and get all the valves, all cylinders running as close as possible together, the bike will make a bit more power, and it will certainly have better throttle response, so nicer throttle response. And the other reason too is for our own race bikes, but even customer bikes, and we've got a lot of long-term customers that bring their bike in for like an annual service and whatever. And they're doing track days on them, because we've recorded the exact clearances before, we can actually see if they're moving, whether there's a problem or anything like that. It could be a valve that's moved quite a lot since the last time we serviced it, which would raise a red flag, and we can potentially avoid an engine detonation because we saw it. It's a good thing Daniel got the clearances done because they were quite a long way out and needed a lot of adjustment. So Brix has done that, done a great job on that. And as I've discussed before, our process is that we always put the bike on the dyno because it's a track bike. We can't obviously road test it, but we want to put it under load, make sure that there's no leaks, so that when Daniel takes it to the track, it's going well. And a benefit of doing that too, while we're doing all that, we can also do a tune assessment. The tune, look, this bike doesn't need a tune. In a higher RPM, it's actually not too bad at all. Around 7,500, it does have quite a rich spot, but you're not really going to be using that RPM heaps. It has standard headers and standard collector with a Scorpion muffler on it. So Daniel, one day down the track, if you want to consider getting a full system, or we could get Kenny at Megacycle to make you a system, and I'll get Saucy, just chat to Saucy about what options we can get you for you for an exhaust. But it can be later down the track when budget allows. Getting an exhaust and tune out on this bike, we'll probably get about 4 to 5 horsepower extra. And looking at it, it's kind of probably, around a track like Broadford, you're going to probably find about 0.6 or 0.7 of a second a lap from doing that, believe it or not. And around Phillip Island, you might find as much as a second a lap. It'll help the engine quite a lot, and you'll get really good performance gains out of that. So she's nearly ready to go. So we've run it through, everything's working great. So we'll just get it reassembled and back to you, Daniel.